Hey everyone, in today's session, let's talk about a cool feature available in AWS Lambda called Lambda Layers, which enables you to reuse your business logics, business rules without rewriting them inside your individual Lambda functions. So let's explore what Lambda functions are and why we should use them with a cool demo in this session. Let's get started. Lambda Layers is a feature available in Lambda section of the AWS console. Lambda layers enables you to move your common business logics, business rules, or any other common code into its own layer and then reference the Lambda layer from the Lambda functions and use it. In our case, the Lambda layer would contain the account number validation code, but in your scenarios, it could be any common code that serves a particular business purpose. For example, it could be application error logging code. So you write your application error logging code in a common way and deploy it as a Lambda layer, and then you are referencing it from your other Lambda functions to log your errors into that centralized component. In future, if you want to change how you log the errors, you just need to update your Lambda layer code. So Lambda layer code can be libraries, custom runtimes, or any other dependencies. So let's take a look at a scenario how we would build Lambda functions without using Lambda layers, and then see how we can optimize it using Lambda layers. So in this particular scenario, we have three Lambda functions. First Lambda function is to create an account. Second Lambda function is to get the account details, and the third Lambda function is to update account details. So as you can see in here, you have account number validation here, and you have the account number validation in the update account as well. So in both the create account and update account code, if you are not using this Lambda layer feature, then you will have to duplicate the same account number validation logic in both the Lambda functions. So if you build Lambda functions like this would have a lot of overhead, because we need to change the account number validations in create account as well as update account, and also then we'll need to test both these functions as well. So let's see how we can use Lambda layers to get rid of this code duplication issue. So if you look at this particular scenario, so you have the same three Lambda functions to create account, get account details, and to update accounts. And you have moved your account number validation into its own layer, which you, rather than duplicating the code, what you do is you are simply referencing that Lambda layer to and use that particular validation functionality. So in both create account and update account, you are referencing the Lambda layer and using its functionality. So later on, if your customers want to change these validation tools, then you only have to change this Lambda layer. So these are some of the advantages you get by using Lambda layers. You can share code between functions to enable code reusability. When your customers want to change your business rules or validations or the formatting of your functions, then you simply have to change a few places rather than changing multiple places and testing it. So by using Lambda layers, the testing effort will be reduced and the maintenance overhead will be reduced. You can upload your Lambda layer once and reference it from any Lambda functions. Since we need to change and upload the Lambda functions once, so it reduces the deployment and development effort, and you can also securely share your Lambda layers cross account and also cross AWS organizations. So let's take a look at a simple demo as how you can use Lambda layers. If you look at the AWS documentation for Lambda layers, it states that the parent folder should be Python, and file name can be anything, but the parent folder should be Python. So I'm in my Visual Studio Code, and I have created a folder named Python, and inside that I have created another file named account number validation py. So if you look at the content of that file simply defines a method named validate account number, which accepts account number. And from this code, what we do is we simply check the length of the account number, and if it is 12, we return true. If it is less than or greater than 12, we will return false. So this is the simple logic that we have inside our account number validation function. So in order to upload this piece of code as a Lambda layer into AWS console, you will need to make this a zip file. So I'm going to right click my file, and I will go one level up and right click and compress this folder. So now you have a zip file which contains your account number validation code. So when you come into your AWS console's Lambda section, you will see on the left menu, on the left pane, there's a menu item called layers. So click on that and click on create layer. So since this is a demo, I'm going to put the same. And you have there are two ways that you can upload your Lambda layer into AWS console. So one way is as a zip file, the other way is as a file from the AWS S3. So for this demo, we'll use the zip file option. So click on the upload button and select the zip file, and you can see the file is selected. And selecting this compatible architecture is optional. So if you want, you can select these options. So even if you don't select it, that's fine. So for the compatible runtimes, we are going to select Python 3.7, 3.8 and 3.9 and click create, and this will create your Lambda layer. So when you're uploading the same function multiple times, you will get different versions, and when you are referencing it, you will have to match, or you have to select the exact version that you want to pick or reference from your Lambda functions. So since we have created the Lambda layer now, so we'll move into the Lambda section and we'll create a new function. So we'll go to functions and we'll create function. I'm going to name the function as demo account validation, and for the runtime we'll select Python 3.9. and for permissions, if you have already created IAM role, then you can use an existing IAM role option and select that particular IAM role. But for this demo, what I'm going to do is create a role with basic Lambda permission, and map it for this function. Click on create function. So now from the Lambda function, we will have to reference the Lambda layer. So in order to do that, you have to click the layers option and click add a layer. So in here, you'll have to select a layer source. So we have multiple options to select. AWS also provides some few layers. So we have the layers in here. But since we have our own custom layer for the account number validation, so we'll pick custom layers and then we'll select the version, and this is where you can select the version for your account number validation Lambda layer. So the version that we have uploaded is version 7. So when you're adding, also we'll be picking the same version 7 and click on add. The layer is propagated. So soon you will see the count in layers as 1. Yeah, now you can see the layer as 1. So I'm going to replace the boilerplate code which got generated when creating the Python Lambda function, and I'll replace it with code that I have created for this demo. So the name we have given for the Lambda layer is account validation layer. So we are using the same name to reference that particular layer. In handler code, we reference the layer and we are calling the validation account number method and passing it the account number that is getting passed from outside as an event. So if you look at the VS code, the name we have given for the validation method is validate account number, and it's the same name that we are using in here. So based on this logic, if the account number is a valid account number, then we will print account created and we will return the status code 200 with the text account created to the column. In case the account number is not valid, then we will return status code 400 with the text invalid account number. So let's deploy this in order to test the functionalities to see how the layer is working. So we have deployed the layer now. So I'm just going to copy the account number since I will need this account number as an input parameter in the payload. So click on this icon and click configure test event. In here, give a name like I'll name it valid account number test. And so in this case, we are passing a valid account number which is of 12 digits, and we save the event and then we can test it. Click on test to test your function, and since we have provided the valid account number, it says valid, the function name is valid account number test. The response we got is status 200 and the text as account created. And now let's try the invalid account number scenario. So click on configure tests. This time we'll name this event as invalid account number, and for the account number I'm going to put uh, less than 12 digits, and I'm going to click on save. So then you can click on test to see how it works. So it says status 400 and invalid account number. So as you can see, this is the beauty of Lambda layer. So you just create your Lambda layer as a common thing, and from your functions you can can import it and then directly use it. So, and also guys, all the code for this particular demo is available in the GitHub repository. So if you go to Lambda Layers, you can find the code that we have created for the Lambda layer. So that's about it, guys. Thanks for your time.